I am now recording la.
Oh, hello.
Oh, I put it in the wrong blimmin. Hello. How are you?
You sounded weird.
Do I still sound weird?
No, you
or
sound
did I
normal now.
Yeah, I pressed the wrong button on my telephone.
Okay, do you want to, This is a podcast in which two friends talk about the pleasures, absurdities, and imperfections of being human. I'm Simon Ellis.
And I'm Lee Miller. Welcome to Midlifing. Simon Kennedy Ellis, what news of the world, given that you don't have any news of the world because you're not watching any news of the world?
You know, it's the first Grand Slam tennis tournament that I have no idea what's going on since, I reckon, 1977 for me.
How does that feel? Does it feel freeing, or are you a bit scritchety?
I don't miss it one bit. I mean, it was sport really was the reason I pulled the plug on news.
Oh, because it was just too much?
Yeah, just because I had that feeling that where I was just, I'd be watching football matches in football takes a long time, and also they come thick and fast. Not that I watched everyone, I just watched, my team, and then there was a time they lost the last time I watched, and I was just like, there was nothing fun about that. Not a thing. And, I think that's enough. And so I stopped. And, I have no idea what's happening in the Australian Open. I know for sure that it will be hot and that some players are winning and some players are losing.
These are absolutely true facts. Can I ask you a question?
I love true facts. It's the false
They're
facts
the best
that
kinds.
I'm less sure about. Ask away, sunshine. Ask away, beautiful man.
Okay, and I don't want you to take this as a proddy or a deliberately provocative question.
Are you accusing me of being a little bit sensitive?
No. I think it's because I'm going to ask a question that might sound, because it's just emerged into my brain now. So it's not something I've thought through, and I'm a little anxious that when I ask it, it will have the tang of judgment attached, and it doesn't.
Yes, the tang of judgment is an old friend, isn't it? Go, shoot.
Okay, so it occurred to me, just as you were saying that you've given up news because of sport, something just sort of clicked into my head. When you gave up news a couple of weeks ago, that did not make me go, Scooby-Doo? It made me go, makes perfect sense. The world is quite chatty at the moment.
Is
and
it?
Sometimes, sometimes there is value in maybe not engaging in the chat. There's been some stuff that's happened internationally, globally, that is being reported like it's happened just around the corner. And while the import of it in a local, as in local to the place, is absolutely, undoubtedly of massive significance, I find myself going, not what does it have to do with me, but there are equally pressing and distressing narratives that we should probably be addressing at a societal level at home before we spend our time sticking our neb in other people's business.
This is hilarious. I thought you were going to ask me a triggery question, but all you've done is give me backstory, which is because I have no idea what you're talking about. I have no idea what you're talking about. I don't. I had a text message from a friend the other day saying, "Are you watching?" And I went, "What?" And he said,
"Oh, wow."
He said, "The tennis." And I went, "Oh, yes, it's on." And he said, "Djokovic is playing." And I went, "Really? What's happening?" And he said, "It's close." And that's all I know. It was tantalizing, but that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. That's the limit. That's the limit of my.
Okay. So I was thinking when I was reflecting upon you removing news from your life thinking about the variety of stories that are, as I say, high temperature, but perhaps not necessarily something that has a direct impact.
It shouldn't be stealing our stealing or turning our heads so far that we forget about problems that are more local to this country or whichever country.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so I thought, okay, so yeah, Simon removing news makes sense. Then, when you said sport was the
trigger,
yeah, that has just sent me into a little bit of a spiral.
Oh.
And that's because my understanding of you is that you have often, always, taken joy from sport.
Yes.
You have been interested in it in a way that my dad is interested in it.
As long, and certainly, being woken up in the middle of the night for All Blacks versus Springboks or whatever, and, just from a very young age and being nestled in with my dad in the old brown vinyl chair and watching the rugby in the middle of the night with him, or tennis or whatever. Yeah.
So it has these incredibly strong threads back to your childhood, to sense of being safe,
identity,
being held, being loved. Yeah.
Belonging, the biggies.
We've talked about at length that I don't have any connection to this at all. It is a strange thing. I lived in the house with my dad, who I like still and liked then a great deal, but had nothing in common with. And he will watch any form of sport for hours on end.
But can you imagine? I mean, obviously, that it exists, people's relationship to sport like that. But can you imagine or entertain the possibility that it's there's pleasure in it for people?
No. Because, of course, I understand the idea that there is pleasure in it, and I also understand that there are things that I enjoy that other people don't enjoy.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. No, well answered. I think you covered all the bases anyway. Yeah. No.
In the same way that... Well, no, it's like I will get... Bob and I will watch RuPaul's Drag Race and get moderately exercised by who has been voted out because of the size of or shape of their wig.
That's exercise, not exorcised, right?
No, it's well, sometimes we need to be exorcised as a result of our exercises. Anyway, so yeah, but at the same time, I then have maybe said out loud
all sorts of dialogue from The Exorcist whizzing around in my brain now, and none of it is repeatable.
Timmy, why you do this, Timmy?
Your mother sucks cocks.
So, Father Damien Karras, tell me more. Okay, right.
Hey, is that Sam Neill?
No, you're in the wrong film.
That was The Omen.
That was The Omen 3.
Yeah, he didn't even make the first two.
3. You mean, if you want to go like old school, it's Gregory Peck.
Thank you.
Me and Bob started to watch it the other day, and we switched it up at the point at which Gregory Peck got the job in the UK, and we went, "Oh, what a short but happy story."
You didn't want to persevere.
Well, it was more like I'd forgotten how much I like Lee Remick, and she comes to a very sad end in The Omen. So we started to watch it, and I was like, "Oh, isn't Lee Remick beautiful? Yeah. Oh, don't the two of them just make a lovely pair? Oh, yeah. Oh, look, they've adopted a child. Oh, he's got a job he's always wanted.
Let's
Switch
watch
it off.
RuPaul.
What a lovely film. That was it. Great film.
I remember Friday the 13th being on. I was private boarding, must have been fourth form, so 14. And I was home alone. Friday the 13th was on, and I crept in thinking, maybe I should watch this. And I turned it on and I went, maybe I won't. And just turned it on, and I couldn't. I didn't. That was it. I was much more interested in masturbating, I think, at that particular point in my life.
I mean, Friday the 13th, whilst it does have some good boobs in it...
No, I didn't mean while watching. I did not mean while watching Friday the 13th. Parts 1, 2, or 3. We have opened a lot of brackets here, and I am very lost.
I know.
And I'm...
Don't worry, I'll take us back, but I do just have to finish off I watched a 6-hour documentary about Friday the 13th not very long ago.
Are you tired? Because you are laughing, you're almost incomprehensible. You're really...
I think I started...
more than giddy.
So I have been working quite long hours.
Yeah.
Joy.
Oh, yes,
The idea of watching sport, bringing you joy, and you saying that was the trigger to wean you off news, the catalyst to wean you off news, and I just suddenly went, okay, now a picture is starting to emerge that hadn't really come into focus until tonight, and that's you have been letting go of a lot of things.
Oh, how do you mean?
You moved from London into another flat and you talked about Swedish death cleaning. You talked about the idea of divesting yourself of a great number of objects. We heard about you cutting up photographs and burning negatives.
Oh, no. Go on.
You have talked about the kind of the one in, several out policy of your wardrobe. You have talked about this sense of trying to live as lightly as you can on the planet. And all of that, whilst I don't understand it on a lived experience level, because as you know, I live in a house of things. But we talked about the idea of you potentially stepping into this almost ascetic.
It's not really. I mean, I think that's an exaggeration. But yes, okay. I'm still with you.
But it's not minimalism. It's not minimalism because what you haven't done is you haven't curated objects of beauty and meaning. You haven't. You said that yourself. I'm not making a judgment. I'm repeating things that you've said to me. That things, like furniture, not so important. Can you sit on it? It does its job. All good.
Except for computer technology. Basically, that's the...
Yeah. So just hearing you say that you have divested yourself of a marker of identity, connection to history, and joy just made me go, okay, so what's the limit? Where's the point at which you stop before you effectively are just living a totally monastic life? And you see why I was worried that might come across as a jabby question.
Yeah, no, it doesn't feel jabby at all. It's I don't think it's. It doesn't feel the way you're describing it. When you put all those things together, it sounds weighty or serious or quite a big thing. It doesn't feel like that. And and the thing about sport was. Because it wasn't because I couldn't handle the news or I was just tired of... It was more that I just felt like that kind of reflex to check news throughout the day. And then also, I mean, Lil always laughs. And although she's been a bit shocked lately because I don't know, and she's telling me sports things, is that she would say, how is it that you know all these things that have gone on in sport? And I didn't know how I knew. Like, even sports that I didn't follow, I knew that so-and-so had won the US Open in golf or something. And I can't stand golf. I think it's a ridiculous sport. And so, that's for a long time of just going, oh, that's interesting. That person, she won that tournament or whatever. But it was just occurred to me that one night watching this game. And normally I was trying to do other things at the same time because it just felt like when I'm sitting there watching, I just felt leaden. And then also because the team I follow was not doing very well, I started going, this actually is really, it's frustrating and I'm not enjoying this. And I just thought I want to get some of that time back in order to pursue things that I think are more dear to me, that have more value. And then in the case of sport, in terms of identity and really very strong memories, I just to be clear, those things still exist. They don't disappear just because I stop doing a thing now. I mean, I know that's an obvious thing to say, but that's the same with photographs. I don't think that photographs, just because they no longer exist, doesn't mean that I don't remember the photographs or that I'm now devoid completely of photographs. So There's something. I'm not getting to your question, which is what's the limit. But I just think that there's something. Maybe maybe it is about the time of my life, and I don't want us to talk about midlifing. That would be weird. I think, hey, how is it that I want to spend my time? And I definitely don't want to spend it sitting in front of a TV watch on an illegal Russian website, watching an illegal stream of Liverpool playing Brighton or whatever, And so I've just been reading a lot more, reading heaps more in the last 3 weeks.
Ah.
Not that I didn't read a lot anyway. But
Yeah.
so it was nothing about the new. I think it's important that I'm sure that when things happen, they will get to me.
Okay, that's. I don't know if it's helpful or if it's reassuring or what.
I do think it. I think there's a thing. Again, I keep. This is something that's important because I know that, and regular listeners will know that we're talking about our lives. But the hope, at least my hope, is that by us talking about and thinking through things that are going on in our lives, it might make people think about their lives. And there's no secret about that to me. But there's something here, and and I don't mean to be. I don't know how to use this word. I don't mean to be absurd about it, but we have a limited time on the planet, and it seems like I'd want to spend it. I'd wanted to spend it on things that I find valuable, as opposed to frittering them away. And I felt like watching sport was frittering them away. Simple as that.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
It doesn't mean I'm going to give it up.
No.
I'm giving up totally.
There's something in this moment that's cleansing about it. It's useful to step away. Okay, that's all. That all makes loads of sense. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
And
thanks for asking me what could have been a tricky question.
I am also really aware that we're very different people, because I similarly am aware that we have a limited amount of time left on the planet. But I still spent most of Saturday sleeping.
You needed a sleep though.
Yeah, I suppose, because I when I woke up at about 7 o'clock in the evening and said to Bob, I've wasted the whole day. And she just looked at me and went, nothing is wasted if it's needed. I'm like, oh, mate, this is why I fucking love you.
Do you think we human beings, spend enough time talking and thinking about mortality? Or do you think it's better not to think and talk about it?
Oh, I don't think it's good to get hung up on it, but I think it's important to remember that it's a thing so that you live your life with clarity and honesty. Because there is a chance that this is the last conversation you and I will have.
There sure is. I hope it isn't.
I really hope it isn't, because
there's all these words we haven't yet talked about.
There's that, and also just we're both too young. Do you think you tell people that you love them enough? And as you get older, do you find that you love with more profligacy? Do you spend love like it's going out of fashion, or are you measuring your love?
Getting tighter.
Yeah.
Yeah, old McScrooge. I am more profligate. There's no question that it's such a beautiful question, because it's very clear to me that saying it, recognizing it, finding ways to express it, that is love, is beautifully powerful in the way in which it sits in the world, if I use your kind of phrasing. No question. And there's no question that I've got more as I've got older. In the last 10 years, I've become more willing and wanting to express that.
Yeah. I've found joy in the temporary nature of love. I think until relatively recently, I thought of love as something which is cumulative, and you couldn't really use the word until you'd hit a certain pitch.
There was a line. Yeah, there's a line, and once you're above it.
Yeah. Exactly. As I've put this much effort into. I've had this much response from. I keep putting those stones of intersubjective engagement in my bag, and it's spilling over. Now it's love. And I've now started to realise that love is temporary and fleeting and joyful because of that.
Well, in the same sense that life is like that? Is that what you mean? Or is it less?
I think it's more that I realise that I can love somebody for a week and then maybe I don't love them after that, but that's okay. It doesn't mean that when I was loving them, it wasn't real. So I am currently deeply in love with my colleagues.
Are you?
I'm in a place of real love for them, and I don't think it will last. I mean, I'd be delighted if it does, but I'm also not worried if it doesn't last. And I found myself 2 or 3 times this week being on the verge of saying, I love you, to people, and having to not do that because,
you might want to, just check that thought. Just hold on to that thought.
Dignity at work, everybody.
Yeah.
And so it's...
Oh, this whole Stalky, Dr.
Exactly.
Stalky
It's like, oh, God, look at,
Oh.
But there's...
Well, he shone brightly, didn't he, for those few months that he was with us?
And then he was asked to go into the garden and do a little work. So I found I think I'm I think I've been quite surprised, and it's also allowed me to reflect back on the last place I worked where I realised, oh yeah, I actually loved some people there. And sort of that I say loved because I'm not with them rather than because I don't care for them. And it's come as quite a shock to me because I think I had a tendency to believe that people devalued the word.
Yes, I was just thinking as you were talking that I was in the United States in 1991. It was the first time I visited there, and I was working at a summer camp. I was the tennis instructor at the summer camp in Pennsylvania. And the kids, they use the word love a lot. And... they used to sing the song, "We love you, Simon. We love you too. We love you, Simon." It's so true. So, da da da, Simon, we love you. I can't remember that. And I'd just listen and I'd laugh. I go, "No, you don't." And and there was something about. I did think I had that exact same thought, which is that it cheapened or devalued or impoverished the word if it was thrown around the way in which I thought Americans tended to throw it around. But I think I tend towards what you're saying now. But I do want to ask you. Is the word flexible enough to wrap around your love for Bob and the kind of love you're describing in terms of your colleagues before they find out and get rid of you?
I think it is flexible enough because it's like, so okay, if you go out after it's rained and you see a big pool of water outside of your door and you go, look at that, that's a puddle, yeah? There is no doubt that what is in that puddle is water. Is there? It's water. But at the same time, if you go to the ocean, you're still looking at water. They're both bodies of water, just of massively different scales. But they're
one might be a bit more salty than the other, but
But they're effectively the same thing. If we want to stay with fresh water, I could say, if we're looking at a puddle versus, let's say, Lake Ullswater. There you go. Second largest lake in the Lake District.
Or Lake Taupo for our Antipodean friends.
Lovely. But they're both bodies of water. They don't, they're wet, they're cold or warm or whatever, but they're the same, but they're different. And I think that's maybe how love works for me. That I'm recognizing that I can have puddles of love and I can have oceans of love.
And the puddles dry up really quickly. Sorry, it was just sitting there for me.
I think maybe the puddles do dry up really quickly, and I think historically I felt that made the puddles less real because they dried up. But that doesn't make the puddles less real. It just makes them transitory, like we all are.
Yes, we do have. It's certainly it's a thing, isn't it? That we, love is forever. It's that's kind of, it's when you're a kid and you're learning it from movies or whatever. That's very strong, that idea.
But love's not forever. I mean, that is nonsense.
Forever.
That is another true fact. That the notion that love is forever is nonsense. Because it's changing. It has to change because we change. So it isn't forever. It's constantly mobile and mutable. And if it wasn't, then it definitely wouldn't be forever. Because if we don't change ourselves to the shape of the love that's coming towards us, if we don't change our shape to hold that, that love, then we can't capture it, and then it's definitely gone. So I think.
Do you think it's work?
Oh, fuck yes! I definitely think it's work, and I think it's good work. I think it's important work.
But I do think it's important to say that I love you.
I love you, Simon. And I don't think you're a puddle.
I was in a focus group at work. I've been involved in this focus group, and the person running it, it was interesting. Used a new word, a word that I'd never heard before, and used it twice quite quickly. And the word was solutionizing. And I said, okay, but most people, well, actually, people might not know this, but I'm married. The person I'm married to, Lil, she's a wordsmith. Like, words are her thing. I said to her, I heard a strange word today. She goes, oh yeah, I know it. And it's a word. It's interesting. It's a word that comes from software development and agile working in software development, which is something you're probably familiar with. And they use the word. What I found interesting, as far as I could understand what Lil was saying, is that they use it when people are jumping to the solution, meaning rather than being in what they're doing, they are solutionizing. So it's
a negative.
Exactly, it's a pejorative thing. But this is such a classic university thing, which is to grab a little bit of management speak and then to use it in the context of we need to solutionize.
Yeah, we need to jump. We need to jump to conclusions quickly.
We've got to be solutionizing when
we need to make errors by not going through the due diligence and all the processes.
Exactly.
We need to be as reactive as we possibly can. Is there an opportunity?
Anyway,
Let's definitely jump on it. Is it the right one for us? No!
Doesn't matter. So anyway, dear listeners, if any of you want to send in some of your solutionizing for midlifing, we'd be happy to entertain them.